Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Edufuturists podcast. We've got a guest waiting in the wings. It's a strange one this evening. I'm on my own. I don't know if anybody's watching, but I guess not here yet. So he's always running late. I know he's here. I just recognise both sides of his face. Tonight is going to be a whole new ball game for me and a whole new ball game for Ben, where we're doing the Edufuturists podcast with me and Ben, but Ben is the guest this evening. So how do you feel about that, mate?
I feel a bit weird. Like,
you should have done Two-Face, where you should have been like,
yeah, I could have done that. That's a good
ideas
guy,
idea. and then Edufuturists Ben.
Yeah, it feels a bit strange, but I am looking forward to a conversation about this, to be fair. And for my first podcast interview about what we're going to talk about, I wouldn't have wanted it to go anywhere else. So.
Yeah, I'm excited, and when the idea was floated and we kind of had a conversation about it, I was like, absolutely. Benny's a big champion of all the friends that he knows and his community and everything that he does. We know this, and anybody who knows Ben's will be a testament to it. But it's nice that actually through the Edufuturists podcast we can celebrate the work that me and Ben do outside of the Edufuturists. We do this a bit of a side hustle. We love it, but I'm guessing everybody knows, but Ben is also known as the ideas guy. It doesn't define him. He's not like the AI educator where people don't know his name anymore. He's still Ben. But tell people, Ben, in regards to, before we get into maybe having the conversation about the book, and all of that and all the wonderful stuff that we'll be discussing that's within it, not giving the game away, still got to buy it, everybody. Don't be tight. It's not that far away from Christmas now. But tell us what the why of the ideas guy. Why did you start it, and then ultimately what is it, and how did it lead to the book, I guess?
Yeah. So first thought here is that there's a funny story behind the conversation around ideas. First one was because when I have a conversation with pretty much anybody, they say to me, "What do you do for work?" And it's like, and for probably 2 years of being self-employed, I was like, well, I do a bit of this, and I do a bit of that, I do a bit of consultancy, I do some projects, and I do some coaching, and do some workshops, and keynote, and all that. And it was a bit like fluffy. And if the only way to do an elevator pitch in that way was be doing an elevator pitch to the top of the Burj Al Khalifa, because it would have taken that long to be able to explain that, right? So the point is that when I was trying to give an elevator pitch and explain what I do, I couldn't really do it. And actually, I was sat in coaching. I get coached, and many of you know we've had Stefan on the podcast previously. And I was sat with Stefan, and I just said, I'm struggling to articulate this. And he just went, if I were to kind of describe you, Ben, I think you're an ideas guy. And I was like, right. He went, of anybody I know, you're the person who comes up with ideas and helps people kind of develop those ideas. You think of things that other people don't think of. You think differently. I said, well, I can't have think differently because there was a certain Mr. Jobs who had that for quite a big brand that many of you will have heard of. And I thought, well, I can't have think differently, but the ideas guy kind of works. And then Stefan went, yeah, but actually that probably explains a lot of the stuff you do. I was like, okay. And so I developed this framework for ideas, and ideas is an acronym: innovation, digital, education, authenticity, and strategy, which will probably come up on in the book. And I thought, that makes sense. So the conversation came from, I couldn't really articulate who I was, even though I was great at helping people with ideas. I couldn't articulate my own idea, which is a bit ironic, I know. And then ideas became, I've chewed this over with somebody else. And then the work that I'm doing now, a lot of the work that I do, whether that's consultancy, contracting, doing a little bit of work on projects or keynotes, are almost always helping people form and frame ideas. And so that's where it came to. And then the book came out as I know we'll get into it. The book came out of, I know that when you write a book called The Ideas Guy, and that's the title, The Ideas Guy, and your website's called The Ideas Guy, people will start introducing you as the Ideas Guy. And it didn't sit really nicely with me, because I don't want to be seen as the ideas guy. In the same way, from an Edufuturist perspective, it's not me and Steve are the Edufuturists, it's that we are the Edufuturists. Anybody who is pushing that are the Edufuturists. I don't want to just be the ideas guys. If I've got all the solutions, I wanted to help people to become ideas guys. And so I thought, well, who have I learned from as ideas guys? And then how can I then help other people to learn from them as well? So that's the premise of the book.
I love it. And it is littered with lots of people that have been inspiration to many, definitely to me. We were talking about AI and loads of different stuff earlier, as we always do before we came on, but these little bad boys still come into play on a regular basis for me. I'm just pulling out, they're in my little drawer underneath my screen, and every now and again when I'm just thinking about a particular thing and I just want that little critical friend, AI becomes a big help for me now. It's become, when you're facing burnout just before Christmas, or when you get into that bit of whether you were an early bird or a night owl, whenever you're working, just how can I frame it? AI really helps with that, but also so do these. I don't know, they really help me frame thoughts and processes and just little points. And I think,
and for those people who aren't watching, Steve's talking about the
Ideas
Guide
Guide cards. Yeah. So, and I know we're not pushing the brand. Ben can tell you where to get them from, and I'm now on commission. Perfect. It works hand in hand. But I think ultimately, it's just
20% finder's fee.
Absolutely. Everybody needs a 20% finder's fee. When you're not a friend. Those who are listening will get it. Those who don't, what? But yeah, and I think looking, and we'll dive into real detail of the book, and we'll go through what that looks like in regards to the different structure and basically your thoughts and the thing that link into it. But the thing that really resonated with me, and hopefully for those people who buy it, and I'm sure it'll absolutely fly off the shelves, because I love it. Or maybe it's because I spend too much time with him, very similar like Step Brothers. When we're not putting up bunk beds and doing loads of activities, Ben, then we're just bouncing ideas off each other. But I think, I looked at it and it was like Brené Brown and Steve Jobs and Aristotle, and it's literally like spending probably a couple of days with Ben for everybody else when you don't get to spend as much time as I do with Ben. And I think there might be a little bit in there, but I'm lucky enough to work with you. I'm lucky enough to be friends with you and do all of that. But actually, some of these bits is not just your work, but it's ultimately people that are fed where your ideas come from. I think maybe talk on that. Why do these people resonate, and how did they shape your framing of helping other people with their ideas?
You know what? That's exactly it. And I'm smiling here because I'm thinking to myself, we say on the podcast all the time that we're not. It's not us. We say that we stand on the shoulders of giants. I know it's cheesy, and we talk about some of the wonderful human beings that have helped us on our journeys, the Al Kinglers, the David Prices, the Sagata Mitras, the others, the people that, Bob Harrison's, the people that have really helped us on that journey. But when it comes to like philosophy and strategy and thinking around innovation, like we're learning from these people, right? And I talk about this early on in the book, that I am not trying to suggest in any way, shape or form that these people that I talk about, and there's 25 people talked about in the book. It's 24 chapters, and then one chapter's got 2 people in, so 25 people in that book. And none of them, there's very few anyway, who are pitch perfect. They haven't got a little bit of a dark side. There hasn't been something that's a little bit edgy about them. They might have had some public failures or some private failures, and they might not be the kind of characters that you want to become, but there is learning to come from them. And I think that's really important. That I quote Stephen Bartlett's thing, and he's probably nicked it from a million different places anyway, but he talks about how failure is actually feedback. Feedback equals knowledge, and knowledge equals power. And so my thought process is always this, that you can either learn from your own failure or you can learn from others. And so I learn from their failure, I learn from their wins, I learn from their successes, and I want to think, okay, what can I glean from that, and what can I take from that? And so I've tried to take a few little snippets of ideas of ways to think about how I think, and to kind of like even that applying the practice bit at the end of each chapter, which again, for those of you that crosses over into the cards. The whole principle around that is, okay, that this is all well and good learning about their stories. If we're talking about a Steve Jobs or an Elon Musk, brilliant. They both had dark sides, but you hear their story and then you go, okay, what can I take from that? And then once I've taken that, how do then I apply that in practice? And how can I then help others to apply that? And that's essentially the framework and the process. I see their stuff, good, bad, ugly. Don't have to believe all of it. Don't have to agree with all of it. But what can I take and glean and then put into my own practice and the practice to support others?
And I think you frame it in terms of like the metaphor for it, that it's like a dinner party. The book is a dinner party for, ultimately, if you were to have dinner with a certain amount of people that framed your ideas, who would you want to invite? And these are the people that you've invited to the party. And what I love about the book is that it kind of, like I say, takes the learning as if you've sat there and listened to these people over the entrees, from Oswald, just so you know, but at the entrees and the canapes or whatever you want to call it, and the starter and the main and the drinks in between and the dessert and everything. And it's like he's basically listened to each course. There's more than that, so he's had many courses. It's like a tapas, but it's a tapas dinner, and every course he's had an opportunity to listen to some of these individuals, and then it's a bit of, okay, based on what I've listened to, based on what I've learned, based on what we've discussed over dinner, here's how you can magpie it, and here's how you can apply it to the context of, so what? I don't know, here's your why, so what? And that's what I love about the book. It's that, not just the stories, it's application to context that really, I was like, okay, because your view is different to often what my view would be and everything else, but it's that helping frame, where's it coming from? Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But it's anybody that you missed out that you couldn't invite to the dinner party. You thought I'll probably going somewhere else, but there's 25. Who else? So how did you pick the 24 or 25?
So interestingly, yeah, I didn't want to tell a biography of each person. So there's bits of biography in there. There's bits of snippets of. There's loads of bits you miss out of people's stories. I get that. How did I pick those? So when I was thinking about those 5 areas: innovation, digital, education, authenticity, strategy, a lot of these people jumped out. So I thought about, okay, I want to make sure that it's representative and inclusive. So I want to make sure that I know I learned from. There's more than 25 people's books that I've read or lives that I learned from. So I wanted to make sure that I wanted to see and help other people to be seen in that space as well. So whether they were male, female, whether they were tech people, whether they're older people, whether they were people from different ethnicities or different ways of perspectives of thinking, political persuasions. So I made sure that there was trying to be a little bit of a balance in that space as well as like coverage. But interestingly, Stephen, you're the first person I've told this, so a little bit of a podcast exclusive is that I've written a list for Ideas Guy Book 2 because of the next 24 people I'd like to have a dinner party with. And some of them are like, whoa, they're a little bit out there, like not even thought about them. Because when you talk about innovation, you know we're going to talk about jobs. If you don't talk about jobs, then like, unless you go in, I don't want to do the obvious. So jobs is going to be in it. You know that Elon Musk is going to be in it. And somebody like Sam Altman that's sat in there as well, you know these people are going to be in it, right? So some of the newer ones, it wasn't I didn't want them to be in, but I had to make a selection because I wanted to cover all those 5 areas and then who also loops them together as well. So, and to be fair, a lot of these people have been highly influential. So a Joe Rogan, for example, and I know, again, he's not perfect. I'm not suggesting he is. So I try and make that really clear in the book. Like, when I love podcasting, I love listening to podcasts, I love creating podcasts, I love being on podcasts. So he has been at the pinnacle of that. And so I've been watching him and I thought, he needs to be in this space. What do I learn from him? And actually, Rogan covers all 5 and he's in one of that final one because he does do stuff about, like, Rogan is the most voracious learner you see in a public space. Like, he's interested in nootropics and MMA and fitness and health and food and boar hunting and like craziness. Like, just doesn't seem to be, but he's interested, and I'm interested as well. So being that curious space just kind of helped me pick those, but it wasn't necessarily an easy one because I could have written the book's over 300 pages long, and it could have been probably triple that if I'm being thinking about the people that have influenced my thinking.
Absolutely. We have to cut back from 300 pages of the atomic essay every week. You get excited. You love writing. And Steve Jobs won't be in the book that I'm not writing, everybody. So I'm the last one remaining one, it seems. I'm the odd one out. Maybe I'll just stay the odd one out. Maybe I'll
To be fair, most people mention Jobs' ideas and don't mention that it's come from Jobs. At least in these 24 chapters, I mention where the ideas have come from.
Yeah. So so the book is basically your thoughts and your processes based on the ideas. How was the work that you've done with the ideas framed? Did these people? So I'm thinking about the which chicken and egg. You've obviously got the cards. You've got the work that you're doing. Have you had more ideas, and have these people come to the party to feature in the book since you've been doing the work about the ideas guy in consultation and coaching, or actually these people have they come out more, or actually did they frame the ideas from the very beginning? Is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really great question. I think just like the chicken and the egg conversation, I don't think it's a straightforward answer, in the sense that I wrote the manuscript for the book before I did the ideas guide cards, before I did any of the takeaway stuff. Like, those people were the people that I selected because I wanted to get
Did you write this before
them.
the Edufuturists book? Did I just give it away? But no, I'm only joking. But
not the first Edufuturists book. The first Edufuturists book that we first had a conversation that's never actually gone out
was
anywhere.
1977, wasn't it? I think before I was even born. I knew were. But, yeah.
So I would probably say the book and these people came first, and then these practices, because and what it's allowed me to do, I suppose, is put words and a framework to lots of things going around in my brain and lots of ways of thinking. And like you joked about it there, about like spend any time with somebody like me and you go, hold on a minute, like, you're talking about football, and then you're talking about weights, and then you're talking about nutrition, then you're talking about aliens, then you're talking about music. I am that guy. Like I am curious about stuff, and I don't mean that in a like I'm amazing. I'm interested. And I think what that's then meant is, because I'm interested and I want to learn from people, therefore that then comes across, and then but I needed it to have a structure, because my brain isn't always as structured as I want it to be. So that's what this has then done. So it's created that structure, and then it creates the other bits that come from it, like the cards, etc.
Like it. And was it difficult to take the people you wanted to be featured in it, which the structure's always been there in terms of the ideas, but was it a challenge to try and work out which quotes, which bit of the story, which relevant linking into the framework? Is that why it took so long? Because, for anybody, I've spent enough time with people like David Price and Jamie a little bit, and then obviously Dan and you and all those underpaid people. And I know how much effort goes into writing a book. It's not let's just sit down, write it, and like songs. But was that the biggest challenge as you went through the iteration process to work out what quotes go into where, or was that just a natural formation of the book itself?
It sounds really like false when I say this, but it flowed that way. And I think the issue was, like, as I said there, the issue was taking stuff out. So I could have talked. I only talk about a tiny little bit of SpaceX in the conversation about Elon Musk. I haven't talked anything about Tesla. I haven't talked about anything about any of his other stuff, really. And I only pick out tiny little bits, and I thought could go into multiple different things here, but I wanted to try and take, okay, well, what is the learning that we can take from that person? And there could have been 5 or 6 different ones, but because I wanted to get 24 takeaways, that they came out naturally. And to be fair, as people go through the book, and it's not about me selling loads of books, because to be fair, this is more about me being able to get my thought process into a coherent space. But like, I've got Sir Ken Robinson in there, like lessons in work in education. There's absolutely no way I would not have Sir Ken Robinson in that space. But the takeaway from Sir Ken Robinson was stay curious. Well, yeah, okay. It's a pretty obvious thing to say, but what does stay curious then mean for us as whatever world we're in, whether we're in education, business, whether we're just individuals or part of a group or whatever else? I think, yeah, it's an interesting one. There's some, like I said, there's some people that are going to be, you absolutely know that if Ben was going to write a book, those people would be in it. And it'd be interesting to find out actually if anybody thought there would be others in it that aren't in it. Somebody did say, is Jesus in there? Knowing that I had a bit of a, more than a bit of a faith background, and he's not. For those people who wanted to know the answer to that question. But yeah, there's other people.
Not in this one anyway. Not in this one anyway.
It's not in book 2 either.
It's in the second coming, apparently. You know, there's a.
You're very good, Steve. Very good.
Saved him for the second one, or even the third one. It could be a series, mate. It could be a trilogy. Who knows? But I think we can go through, and I think you called it out. And let me make sure I get it in the right order. Terrible with memory. But innovation, digital, education, authenticity, strategy. The bit that I really want to focus down on for a little bit of time is the thing that I'm passionate about is authenticity. And I think we could talk about that all day, and we'll go through different bits. And I'm gonna do my thing, which is literally don't keep to a structure and just go here, there, and everywhere. The conversation between me and Ben is here, there, and everywhere. I've not got my diagnosis yet, but let's be honest, I think it's just waiting for the ink to dry. But that bit is significant. I think it's significant in terms of the conversations we have and you have with me on a regular basis about, and I think you posted it on LinkedIn quite recently around everybody, new year, new me. And actually the thing that stands out about you is your authentic self. The thing that actually rings true and I love about the book is that you have picked people that have stayed true to themselves, per se, that you might not like them. They are polarizing. I'm surprised Hitler wasn't in there, but you never know, mate. Do you know, maybe the second one. But you look at it and you, like you say, Rogan, and you think Musk, and you think some people are. So some people aren't polarizing, but what you've done is you've said these people have been authentic to themselves, and that rings true around how you approach things and actually how the story's told. I think it's, if anybody's read, spent any time with you, read our essays that you write an awful amount of, because you know that's one of your talents, and that it really rings true with that flow just continues. And I think, why is that so important in your work in terms of the development of ideas and you supporting the development of ideas, and also this book? Why is authenticity so important in terms of that structure?
So if I'm being really honest and open in that space, and I one of the people in the book talks about that level of vulnerability and being honest. I think it's probably because for as long as I can remember, I felt like I've had to put a mask on. And I talk about that in that LinkedIn post that you were referencing there, that struggle in my own skin. And that's not me fishing for anything other than the truth. I struggle in my own skin, even though it's easier now than ever before to be comfortable in that space. And I'm grateful for people like yourselves and others who do champion me and support me and have picked me out of difficult places and all that kind of thing as well. Even though I get to help other people, I know that I've got people I can rely on if I need them. But also the thing about authenticity is that there's the quote at the beginning of that chapter, which is from Carl Jung, and I've used it. I reckon I must have used it 100 times. And it's about the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And I think so many of us live with a mask on, or live inauthentically, or live in a way that we feel like we have to pretend to be somebody else to fit in or to stand out or whatever you need to do. But actually you really are. But that does not give us license to be dicks. And I think a lot of the time when I try to be authentic, and this is who I am. If you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. All that kind of nonsense. I can just be a dick to people, and I'm not saying I'm not now, but like that whole conversation of I want to be authentic, but being authentic doesn't mean you can be and treat people badly. What I do know is that when you become authentic, though, and you assert that truth and of who you are, and you're living that identity piece, it doesn't always land for people. Because if you have lived a life that lived for other people and pleased them and made them, and then you automatically start going, hold on a minute, I want to lead authentically. I'm okay with saying no to that, because I'm not just about people pleasing, although it's not wrong to, but that impression management theory and stuff that I talk about in that, some of these are really, really, really tough to navigate. So I wanted to talk about authenticity because actually, remember, ideas is as an acronym, summarize some of the work that I do, and I know that I am. It's one of the privileges of a lifetime, another privilege of a lifetime, to be able to talk about my own mental health struggles, and to be able to talk about my own late diagnosed ADHD, and to talk about my origin story, which is far from straightforward, and to talk about my failures when it comes to all sorts of different things, and my struggles and challenges. And the reason why is because I mentioned it in the book as well, but one of my favourite films is Coach Carter. And it's so cheesy, but Coach Carter in that book, in that film, quotes a Marianne Williamson piece that a lot of people have heard, the our deeposphere is not that we're inadequate. And there's a line in there that talks about this idea of we're not supposed to live and hide our light under a bushel, essentially. We're not supposed to try and be something we're not. We're not supposed to we've got to let our own light shine, because in doing so, we kind of, we allow others to do the same. That's essentially what we're doing. We're finding that space of, if I am who I really am, and I shine light into who I really am, that your playing small does not serve the world. So be who you are, shine your light, be authentic in that space without being a dick. And then actually, if we become who we truly are, that then helps other people become who they truly are, and we all win, because nobody's having to hide and nobody's having to mask.
Yeah, and I think one of my favourite quotes is around leadership, but on vulnerability in regards to, I think it's Simon Sinek, unless Simon Sinek might have got it from somewhere else, but he basically says, a great leader doesn't only inspire us to have confidence in what they can do, a great leader inspires us to have the confidence in what we can do. And I think ultimately, the stuff that you've done, the stuff that you mentioned, the work that you're doing around the ideas, guys, is actually, and coaching, we mentioned Stefan's absolutely exceptional at it. And then as are you, where ultimately leadership and coaching go hand in hand. To me, leadership is, there's no point doing what you do and getting into a leadership role, and many people do fail it because they then pretend or think they have to play a role of what they think leadership is. But we've had some wonderful people on the podcast as well that have just really been brilliant leaders and just done it in their true selves. And I think that vulnerability piece, I know you quote and talk about, but I'm a massive fan of Brené Brown. We all are. I know that vulnerability stuff, the authenticity stuff. If you're not doing it authentically, to me, why are we even doing it? Because I just think you can't play it for such a long period of time. And leadership and coaching and the ideas work and the stuff and the great work that you're doing with organisations, people, is around often not doing a lot. And people go, what do you mean? The bit is that you realise sometimes you've just got to support, guide, be yourself, and allow them to see exceptionally how good they are. And I remember a conversation with a good friend of mine that I work with, and this person said to me, "Tell me how you're going to make me better then." Like, phony away, and she says, "I've heard you're good, but tell me how you're going to make me better then." And I said, and I just remember the thing of, I just said, "I ain't going to do anything. All I'm going to do, well, the time that I'm going to be working alongside you is basically just get you to realise how good you are." And I think that is some of the stuff that we talk about often, but also from this book that really guides through. It's those people that actually have innovated, come up with great ideas, but often have not. These people, they don't do it on their own, is what I'm trying to say. They're guides, they're facilitators, they're coaches, they're mentors, they're people that basically bring the ideas out of the individuals that they work with. And it's great to see, actually, as it goes through the structure, that actually throughout it, that there's an emphasis on a diversification. There's an emphasis on a difference and a diverse of opinion and thought, not just skin colour. It's real diverse in regards to where you've taken these people from, different backgrounds, different organisations, different cultures, but also different contexts. But I think the bit that I like about the book is the ability for the book to coach. The way that I look at it is the way that I look at it and go, okay, it's kind of teasing me, going, "Go on then, what do you think? What do you, if you were to make, what do you think you'd apply? Can you do it?" And it's like, it's a real nice thing of challenging and embracing the principles and the framework that you put together. Where did that come from? Because I spent that time with you, and I was like, it must be I that's written it, but I don't know what.
I wish you flipping were. I wish you were. I'm going to be absolutely honest. I'm really grateful you said that, because it's not something. It's not easy to do that, and I've tried to do that, and maybe I don't think I've really articulated that to anybody else. And I wanted people, like, the whole point of me talking about everybody else being the ideas guy is, or an ideas guy or whatever else. And interestingly, I probably should have mentioned early that, yes, I know we're talking about me because I'm a guy, I'm a bloke, but I'm not just saying by the book, but I really do unpick in that beginning about why the word guy is just become it's become a gendered term that it was never supposed to be. Guy is supposed to be everybody. It's all of us. We're all the guys. And I know we say guys and gals, but actually guy is supposed to not be a masculine term. So please don't think I'm being that person either and just listening to blogs. Which I know that you know, Steve, but I'm just putting it out there. But interestingly, if I really believe what I'm saying, that we can all, we've got validity in ideas, and each person's got validity in ideas. They don't always have to be equal, and they don't have to be right, but we can develop that. Well, I wanted people to be able to, okay, well, this works for me. So yeah, I know, or I hope there'll be opportunity that people will read this and go, "I'd love to do some coaching with you, Ben," because that's what I do. It's part of my paid role. That's what I do as a job, and it's great. I do love doing it. But I also know that if the book helps you coach yourself, and the cards help you coach yourself, and a journal helps you coach yourself, the outcome is exactly the same. Because the people are becoming who they truly, the greatest privilege of a lifetime, right? Who you truly are. That's intentional, and I always think to myself that you've got to. The irony of what I'm just about to say. This is well funny that I'm going to say this. Somebody said to me once, "What's the mantra and the motto you live your life by?" And I said, interesting. I want to say, with the same measure that you use, it will be used back to you, pressed down, shaken together. And it's from the Bible, that, mate. Jesus said it. Jesus said, "Whatever you do to the least of these people, you're doing for me, or love your neighbour as yourself. And I know lots of other people have said it. The Buddha said it pre-Jesus. Lots of other people have said it in lots of other traditions. But I say that my phrase has always been, with the same measure that you use, it'll be used back to you. There's also an expectation in the Bible. I don't know. How did this come out? Which is a
great book, apparently. Never read it. Too long for me, but apparently it's a great book.
Nearly as long as my book. No, it's
Everyone's
not.
wrote it, so it's all
AI wrote it.
It did. Yeah, AI was invented back then, not 2022 in November by GPT. Everybody, shocker.
But it's that idea that to him who's much has been given, much is expected. And I'm not saying I've been given a lot of time, effort, investment, ability, courage, confidence. I've been given that, and therefore I have responsibility with that. And so the whole principle on this is I wanted to give something out into. Look at me, like I'm giving something out into the world just for the betterment of humanity.
Fucking authors onto fucking the podcast, mate.
No, but that's that's you see what I'm saying, don't you? I think the coaching yourself, helping you to really think about that. I really want to help people think for themselves. We say on the podcast all the time, mate, don't we? Like, we don't want to teach people what to think. We want to help them think about how they think, and why they think what they do. I've got an article coming out in the next couple of weeks which talks about the solution to misinformation or disinformation is not censorship. It's actually, it has to be better information. So poor information shouldn't just be shut down and fizzled out, because then it goes underground and gets a little bit dodgy. Let's flood with real information, better information that makes people go, interestingly, these people are talking about this, which is white supremacy or privilege or whatever else. Well, look, hold on a minute. Don't say, let's ban that. Let's not talk about it. Let's say, okay, well, let's unpick that and let's talk about this, and this, which is counter to that. And then let people make decisions for themselves. That is where I think we're trying to be, where you can make the decision yourself. And I think I've mentioned this story before. And if I've not mentioned it on a podcast, and I know me and you have mentioned it, Steve, is that when I started doing the cards and the stuff about the book, the ideas guy, when I'm talking about the website or the book or whatever else, I use the phrase TIG, as in the ideas guy, yeah? And it came up on my phone while I was driving, and then on the screen, a message popped up, and my daughter Martha is in the car. So Martha's 10. Brain box, right? But then, so she pressed, oh, Dad, you've got a message from Mike. So I clicked the message, and it started reading it out. And it talked about TIG cards and TIG book and TIG website. And Martha went, Dad, what does TIG mean? And I went, the ideas guy, TIG. And she went, oh, that's clever. I said, yeah, it's just because we're lazy, because we can't bother writing the ideas guy. And then just as a little bit of just a throwaway moment, and then she started talking about Rihanna or whatever else, dancing or whatever else it was. She just went, TIG, you're it. Now, in the UK, that context will work, or certain parts of the UK. Certainly, I used to play TIG, and you used to play TIG, Steve, because we're northern. Down south, they call it tag. In America, they call it tag. Other people call it tag. We call it TIG. That game where you're running around, where you're tigging people and they're on, that's called TIG. Scarecrow TIG or whatever else kind of TIG. And she just went, TIG, you're it. And I went, bang, there it is. That's the point. The ideas guy, you're it. TIG, you're it. So, yeah, that was just a cool little story around it. And now you out of the mouths of babes, right? Kids.
Yeah, I think that was my next question. What do you want people to be inspired to do when they're reading the book and after, when they put it down? And do you think that they want to not necessarily write a book, but they're inspired to better themselves, coach others, get some paid coaching from Ben, buy the ideas guy stuff and all that kind of stuff? I don't know. Ben will put it in the show notes. But what is the question is, on writing the book, what were you hopeful when you finished it that people would take from it and do from it as an action?
So the subtitle for the book is Unleash Your Inner Genius. And the whole point of me writing a book. Yes, I've always wanted to write a book. I've been that guy who's always wanted to write a book. I don't know why. I just wanted to be the guy that's written a book. And some of that is probably I've written a book. But the other bit about it is that it's more than that. It's more the idea of I want to help people unleash their inner genius, because I actually think there's something special and unique and an idea in all of us. And interestingly, I've been hearing, I don't know why, maybe it's just because the algorithm does this, but I'm hearing loads of stuff recently about ideas are all well and good. It's execution that really matters. And I'm like, I don't disagree with that. None of this suggests that we just think about stuff and then we don't do anything with it. But the point is, if you've got an idea, what is that idea and how can we help you form and frame that? And if that is with me, great. If it's not, if it's in your teams, if it's on your own, I really want you to form and frame your own ideas and execute those things. Talk about psychic dynamite, and I'm not going to go into too much about this, but the process of psychic dynamite and what the dynamite is within us all, it's just awesome. Like, when I found that a few years ago, I was like, that will be in my book, that phrase, and I used it because it's just perfect, because I think that's it. That's me. I'm not saying I'm like dynamite, but I think I'm explosive and I'm like conscious and I'm curious. I want to be in a mind. I want to learn, and then it's just explosive. Make it happen. Do some cool stuff with it. So yeah, I would suggest it's about everybody's got an idea. There's a potential for psychic dynamite in us all. Hopefully that'll help unleash that.
Me and Ben will be at Bet. We'll be there. We'll be having conversations. Really excited. I know that there's some things in the offing and there's still some bits to be sorted out, and we don't want to give too much away that might not happen and everything else, but be great to see you there, mate, and having conversations. It's always great, and I think people will be coming up, so whether you'll have copies there or whether there's a link and everything else and whatever. It's been I loved it, but I always gonna, because I have to put up with you and I have to say that I love it. More than joking. 20% book thing, but it was a real. Ben knows how much I struggle. If it's not an Audible, I really struggle with reading. But actually, this was one where probably the first book that I didn't read back to front to back. It was a strange one for me, because actually I probably went through it and went backwards, refreshed, and actually made notes more than probably I've ever done. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because we spend so much time together. Maybe it's a great book, and I'll let the people who buy it and listen to it be it. But I think what's great about it is I'm a quotes fan, and I'm a big believer in linking what I'm saying to people that have done it and said it. Maybe that's my insecurity. Talk about myself of I struggle with my identity at times and my value and all that kind of thing. So I have to say, well, this is my bit, and here's a quote that this person said it. Vulnerability. This is Brené Brown. It's not me that said it. Vulnerable leadership. It's Brené Brown, of course. But that's the bit that I loved about the book. Going back and going, and some of the bits I'd not heard a quote of, and I wrote them down. I was like, I think I'm going to use them with my team next week and everything else. So I've nicked loads, mate. But that's a bit that went back and yeah, I just loved it. I'll be honest, and I'm not just saying it. It's a great book.
Thanks, mate.
One of the things I love about it is authentic. If I had to then go, there are bits where I went, I thought I might have put a bit more in here and maybe been a bit more narrow on this person, like you've said, and some people that are going to come in the second or the third book or the 15th book. You're a fan, but actually, what I loved is that I probably knew a lot of it that was coming, but I didn't know when it was coming and how it was going to relate to the structure. Is the bit that some bits I was like, I thought that was going to come in that bit there, but I've seen it and I've read it. We haven't got to education, and I've already talked about this bit. Or authenticity. I thought this was going to come in here. And that's the bit where it surprised me. I went back and I was like, oh. And then I was thinking about, I'm never going to write a book. I don't think that's going to happen. Ben's going to write the Edufuturists book and I'm going to have my name on it probably. That's going to be great. But I was like, if I was to do it, this is like it's a great book, mate. But I don't want to blow your smoke up your ass too much because you know I love you. And I talk about this all the time. But we said, what do you want people to do? I'm going to ask a question and say, your elevator pitch. You said you struggled with the ideas guy, what your elevator pitch is. I'm going to give you about a minute to tell people why this book.
So I believe that every person has got psychic dynamite within them. I believe that every person has got an idea that's worth exploring. And this book is designed to help you learn from other people, put some of their learning into practice and help you form and frame your own ideas, as well as give you the impetus and the ideas and some thoughts that you might never have had to help you become who you truly are, because ultimately all of this is about unleashing your inner genius, not somebody else's, not an idea from somebody else's, not a copy and paste quote, even though that might be useful. It's about helping you form and frame your ideas to make your mark in the world, because let's face it, ultimately we didn't make, there's no point in us shrinking back. We don't make, I've said it before, it's like as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. So that's the purpose of the book.
And if people want a copy, where do they go, Ben?
So the link for Amazon will be in the show notes, or you're welcome to go over onto theideasguide.io, where you can just find out more about the book, more about the stuff that we do. But I really appreciate this conversation, and like I said, I wouldn't have wanted it to be anywhere else first. And I'm grateful that we get to do this. I know it's a little bit different than what we normally do on Edufuturists, and I hope people can appreciate the fact that we just indulge a little bit, and your words are kind. So I appreciate that. I hope it just helps people. I'm grateful that it's helped you and that you've enjoyed it as well. But
the door just came in. I thought I was going to have to just turn it off. She just walked into here. I thought it was going to be like the BBC. She just got to the end and I was like, and then she just looked at me and then just walked out. So, no, it's been a pleasure, mate. Hopefully, as the only person that's been asking the questions rather than answering, it felt a bit weird, I'll be honest. Wow, it's hard work. This is how you feel when I just switch off halfway through the podcast, is it, mate? But no, hopefully I've done it justice. Hopefully the questions have been the right ones.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've delved enough into it. But I think the only people are going to really dive into the book is by reading it. You know, come on, we love Ben. Buy a ticket, people. I know that's it. I know support each other, and I know I will. I've read it. I've had an opportunity to do that and see it early and everything else, but I will be buying a copy.
Thanks, man.
Because your mum and your wife is not enough, mate. 2 copies is never enough.
We're buying 10.
But no, come and see us. Like, you know, we've got the Canva event the night before, Ben, and chat to Ben, and you'll see Ben comes out through the Edufuturists in terms of his idea guy. We see ourselves in many, many different guises, but we're not just the Edufuturists. We're authentic in terms of what we're trying to achieve in regards to everything. We've got the Canva event. Tickets are probably sold out by now by the time it's come out, but that's fine. There's a waiting list. It's a Canva HQ. And we are the Bet partners, or partnering at Bet. We'll be interviewing people at the awards. We'll be walking around and doing some stuff, which is going to be really cool, mate, rather than just spending solely on a stand or anything else. So come and see Ben, have a chat with him, have a coffee. He's tight, so he'll make you buy the coffee, but at least you can have a good chat with him. And yeah, it's been emotional. Cheers, Ben.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Speak soon. Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Join over 30,000 educators at London's Excel in January 2025 at Bet UK. Headlining the arena, we have Stephen Fry, Dan Fitzpatrick, and Rose Luckin, to name just a few. There are 100 hours of CPD accredited sessions, from table talks to tech user labs, and over 600 exhibitors to inspire you with new technology for the new year. Educators, get your free ticket today at uk.betshow.com.